as will and suffering, a journey into the depths of Schopenhauer's philosophy. The riddle of endless wanting. Have you ever tried to understand your desires? Have you ever wondered where they really come from? This is a question that comes to all of us in the silence of our moments, in the midst of our daily rush, and in the face of fleeting joys. We live in a world full of wants, wanting success, love, peace, and things we don't even know the names of. But why does achieving these wants rarely bring the lasting happiness we imagined?
In the 19th century, a German philosopher named Arthur Schopenhauer provided a profound and perhaps disturbing answer to this question. He not only explored the roots of our desires, but also argued that this relentless force of wanting is the root cause of all human suffering. His philosophy is an invitation to take a bold journey deep within, to confront the force that shapes our lives.
But how did Schopenhauer argue that this relentless force is the root of all our suffering? And more importantly, what path, if any, did he offer us to escape this endless cycle? This journey is an answer to these questions. Diagnosing the disease, the pendulum between suffering and boredom. Before we can seek a cure for an illness, we must first properly diagnose the illness itself. Schopenhauer believed that the human condition is itself a disease, a fundamental cycle of dissatisfaction that defines our lives. He used a powerful and unforgettable metaphor to describe this condition. Life swings back and forth like a pendulum between suffering and boredom. This metaphor captures the two main poles of human experience in his philosophy. Suffering. What is this state? For Schopenhauer, it is the simple, agonizing pain of unfulfilled desire, the fabric of our endless striving. Every desire stems from a lack or deficiency, and this feeling of lack is inherently a form of suffering. This suffering can range from simple hunger to the longing for social status. Boredom. This is the feeling of emptiness and meaninglessness that comes to us immediately after the temporary satisfaction of a desire. Schopenhauer considered boredom to be direct evidence of the inherent worthlessness of existence. He believed that boredom is the feeling of emptiness of existence. If life itself had a positive value, then simply being should satisfy us. But as soon as the pain of a desire is removed, a terrifying emptiness appears that is called boredom. From this perspective, pleasure is not a positive, independent state. This is where Schopenhauer introduces the principle of asymmetry. We experience suffering in a very strong and positive way, but pleasure is merely a negative state, the temporary relief of a suffering. As soon as a desire is satisfied, this relief is fleeting, and quickly either a new desire takes its place or boredom overwhelms us. You might be thinking, but what about the joy of effort? The thrill of climbing a mountain or running a marathon? This is a powerful objection, and to answer it, Schopenhauer forces us to look deeper, beyond the activity itself, to the underlying force that drives us to it in the first place. But what is the hidden force that drives this ruthless pendulum? Schopenhauer's answer takes us from psychology into the depths of metaphysics. Unveiling the hidden power, the world as will. To fully understand Schopenhauer's thought, we must pull back the curtain. The world we perceive with our senses, the world of tables, trees, you and me, is what Schopenhauer called the world as representation. This world is the filtered reality of our minds, organized by time, space, and causality. But he argued that this was only the surface of the story. Behind this apparent curtain, there is a fundamental truth, a naked, unfiltered reality that he called will. This will is not the will in our modern sense. It has no program or personality. It is the same raw, unconscious energy that makes a plant sprout from concrete and keeps a planet in orbit, a relentless, aimless pulse at the heart of everything. It is a single, blind, irrational, aimless, metaphysical force that constitutes the inner essence of everything. An unconscious, relentless drive to be and become that pursues no ultimate goal. Imagine a relentless cosmic hunger that drives everything, a blind desire to simply be that boils in the cores of stars and in the depths of our hearts, without reason or end. It is the same force that causes a seed, manifestation of the same will, which, in order to survive, must devour. Schopenhauer believed that man is capable of temporarily freeing himself from the tyranny of the will at certain moments. These escapes, although not permanent, bring a profound sense of peace and indicate the possibility of a different state of being. Liberation through art and beauty. Aesthetic contemplation. In pure moments of encounter with art or the beauty of nature, reason can be freed for a time from the service of the will. In this state, which Schopenhauer calls will-less knowing, we no longer look at objects in terms of their benefits or harms or their relation to our personal desires, but rather perceive them as they are in themselves, their Platonic idea. At this moment, the individual transcends his individuality and becomes, in Schopenhauer's words, a pure subject of knowledge, like a transparent mirror for the object. This state brings a profound peace that he called the Sabbath of the penal servitude of willing, a brief respite from the drudgery of wanting.
The special place of music. Among the arts, music has an exceptional place. According to Schopenhauer, unlike other arts that copy ideas, music is a direct copy of the will itself. Music allows us to experience the universal emotions of existence, joy, sadness, terror, and peace, without being tied to our personal desires. However, we must be very careful. This aesthetic experience is not a way out of life, but only an occasional consolation in it. It is a fleeting glimpse into a will-less state, a pale reflection of an experience of a different order, but not the path to liberation itself.
Liberation through compassion. Mitleid. Have you ever seen the suffering of a stranger and suddenly felt an inexplicable ache in your chest? Not just sympathy, but a spark of shared identity. In that moment, Schopenhauer says, you are seeing the truth of the world. Moral feeling, but an epistemological flourishing. It is the moment when reason shatters the illusion of individuality, principium individuationis, the world of separate things in representation, and perceives the fundamental unity of the same single suffering will. When we see the suffering of another, we actually recognize our own suffering in the other. This profound realization leads us to Schopenhauer's central rule of essence: harm no one and help others as much as you can. Although these ways provide temporary relief from our pain, Schopenhauer believed that there was a more radical and permanent way to ultimately resolve the problem of existence.
The final solution, the meaning of life in its denial. The most radical and at the same time the most final part of Schopenhauer's philosophy is his answer to the question of the meaning of life, an answer that paradoxically lies in the denial of life. If suffering originates in the will to live, then ultimate salvation is possible only through the denial of this will. Denial of the will through asceticism. This denial is achieved through asceticism, the conscious and systematic practice of abstinence and the cultivation of dispassion, in order to attain a state of pure peace.
This path is the active negation of all desires that chain us to the cycle of suffering and boredom.
Fundamental difference from suicide. Schopenhauer sharply distinguishes this path from suicide. For him, suicide is not only not a denial of the will, but a powerful affirmation of the will. The person who commits suicide does not hate life, but rather the painful conditions of his life, and yearns for a better state, the absence of suffering. The act itself is the result of a strong desire, but true salvation requires overcoming the desire itself, not just escaping its unpleasant conditions. In fact, Schopenhauer offers a deeper and seemingly paradoxical insight. Suffering is not simply a calamity to be escaped, but a necessary cure. Suffering long enough brings the will to the point where it realizes the horror of its own nature. Suicide is the escape from this cure before it can have its effect. The ultimate paradox and nirvana. This path itself is accompanied by a paradox. One must will to deny all desires. This is the final act of will, used to extinguish the will itself. By fulfilling this final desire, i.e., achieving desirelessness, one reaches a state that Schopenhauer compares to the Buddhist concept of nirvana. It is a wonderful and blessed peace that is unimaginable to those still trapped in the cycle of wanting. This difficult path represents Schopenhauer's ultimate vision of achieving metaphysical freedom and the complete resolution of the painful riddle of existence. Conclusion: finding peace in a restless world. Our journey through Schopenhauer's philosophy began with a simple question about the nature of desire and led us deep into a complex and thought-provoking worldview. We saw how, for him, life is a pendulum swinging between the agony of wanting and the boredom of getting. We then became acquainted with the hidden force of will, that blind, aimless drive that runs behind all phenomena, and we learned that suffering is an inevitable consequence of the very structure of existence. But in the midst of this darkness, Schopenhauer also showed us glimmers of hope, temporary escapes through the beauty of art, oneness with others in compassion, and finally, the radical path of renouncing the will in order to achieve an indescribable peace. Schopenhauer's philosophy is not an invitation to despair, but perhaps an invitation to look more deeply at our suffering, at art, at others, and at the peace that is perhaps found not in reaching, but in letting go.